Hi, everyone. Kelly here. Today I have Jules Morrow from Jules Music Makers, and Jules and I are going to be talking about how she rebuilt her studio after a move by adding over 100 new students in the past 6 months as a newly single mom. So, Jules, before we get too far ahead and I jump in and describe a little bit more what we've been doing, why don't we have you introduce yourself? That's a little bit more about you, the studio, just kind of give us the basic overview.
Yeah, I have been teaching for 12 years now, and I had been teaching on and off here and there because I had 4 kids within those 12 years while my former spouse was going to medical school. And so my main job really for the past 10 years was raising kids. And I found myself in a situation where we were getting divorced, and that definitely brought up some major financial fears. Yeah. And I just knew that I could do what I love to do. Sometimes I think the tendency is like, I'm going to have to go back to school and do something else, or I'm going to have to go get a restaurant job or something that I don't like. But I had a lot of confidence that I could do what I love. So I kind of started reaching out, looking for help and figuring out how can I make this work with a mom's schedule. Mm-hmm. And I came across you, thankfully.
It's been a wild few months. So just to kind of orient everyone and the timeline that we're talking about, we met in early June. Right now it's mid-December. So it's been about 6 months that we've been working together on the studio and growing things. We moved fast. Oh my goodness. So I want to talk about that. But before we do, let's look at that time in June. We had a few students that were starting. You'd recently relocated. You're trying to build the private studio, but you also wanted some group students. So we had a little bit of a balance that we were already working on. What did the studio look like at that time?
Frantic. I think I had started with this idea that I could do a bunch of summer camp type things. But I had just moved. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't know neighbors, community, anybody. And I quickly learned that I had to switch gears pretty quickly and start building kind of that community first before I could get hundreds of children in the door for summer camp. So I did a lot of U-turning, a lot of, just kind of considering, weighing the balance of like, what do I want to do versus, I need to also be a financial provider now for my household. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that felt really tricky. But it was definitely more chaotic, and I've never struggled getting students in the past, but starting fresh in a new place felt very difficult.
Yeah. It's a challenge when you're orienting yourself in a new community, because everything you just said, obviously we don't know all the connections yet, but also you had just moved your whole life to a new community, to a new area. So your children were orienting themselves to a new area. You didn't have the school connections yet. We were trying to get everyone settled in and get yourself settled in, making friends in addition to building a business. And that's a challenge in a new spot like that with a big life shift all happening so quickly.
Yes.
Now, you had a few students interested right away. We had, I think when we first met, about 10 private students, I think about 7 students that were interested in the group classes, summer camp programs. Obviously, things have taken off a lot since then. What are some of the things, as we were looking to grow the studio, you invested your time into so that we could take some action and spread the word a little bit more about your business?
Yeah, my biggest thing was like, how do I reach more people? Because I know that the students are there, but this world of marketing was just something I did not understand. So that was kind of my main focus, was like, how do I find people to let them know that I offer this? And so that's kind of where I put my main focus. I kind of went straight into specific videos and things that you had offered that I knew would be what I needed to get people in the door as quickly as possible.
Awesome.
So that was very helpful. And I gained a lot of confidence in that. And so much of it made sense to me, kind of why you built the program the way you did. It was just very easy for me to say like, oh yeah, I could see why this would be really beneficial. Again, I really appreciate the way that you do it is not pushy marketing. And that is something I really feared too. I didn't want to be a salesman. I want to be a music teacher.
Yeah.
And so it felt really important to me to have something that felt like I could authentically approach people without selling them something they don't want or need.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk a lot about sales as problem solving and not sales as just kind of imposing your will on other people and trying to get them to sign up for your program as opposed to somebody else's. I had a mentor say years ago, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And that has always really stuck with me, that if the student comes to you and they're trying to decide between private lessons and group lessons, or if they're not sure if they're interested in anything that you're offering, talking them through what they're looking for, just taking those concerns or those questions and areas of growth that they desire and trying to build things around them or make the program work for them is really important. So you've done a great job of that. And as a result, you've also built out a lot of group classes and other things to really speak to students and what they're looking for. Yeah. So as the studio's grown, what do things look like right now? Let's talk first about your offerings, because you do have a lot of them. So you've got your private studio, which is a smaller number of students. We don't teach nearly as many private students as we do everything else. Yeah. But then we've got some group classes and some preschool classes. So what does that look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, the beauty is I'm kind of maxed out as far as hours go. I really feel very strongly I want to give my kids like a transitional year where I'm not working while they're with me. And I've been able to do that. Like I've been able to build enough income with few hours that I feel confident being able to do that for the first year of change, of divorce in their lives. So that's been really awesome. But so I teach private lessons to afternoons and evenings a week, and I just straight through. And then on those days, I also have some homeschool private students, which has been great. And then I have a group vocal performance class, which is a blast, and I love teaching. And I have plans to do more of those in the future as life gets as my children get a little bit older. I also teach a toddler class from my house, which is a lot of fun. And all these things, I'm a creator. Like musicians are generally creators. So being able to create while I'm working is so fun to me, like the hours that I spend doing the creation don't feel like work. Right. So I love that piece of being able to come up with dance moves for my vocal performance class, or come up with activities for my toddler preschool classes. Somebody actually reached out to me asking if I would go to their preschool to teach them. And then I thought, like, this is brilliant, because so many kids are now in daycare and preschool. Mm-hmm. They're usually not at home with mom anymore. So I'm like, all the toddler students are in schools or in daycare, so I can just go to them. So I only reached out, I think, one time to say, hey, I'm available for any preschools or daycares. And I have 4 schools that I'm working with now. That's awesome. Just from that one time. So it's been fun to see the ways where you kind of just present like, here I am, this is what I do. And people see your name over and over again, and people find ways to involve you without you having to try so hard once you kind of are more in the community, which has been fun. Yeah. So yeah, I've got the preschool classes that I go to a couple times a month, and the toddler class, the group vocal performance, and 2 nights a week of private lessons. That's awesome. Yeah. And the preschool classes, I know we've got 4 classes, and I think it's between 3 schools, correct? Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. And those 4 classes, I think we've got about 80 students in those 4 classes right now, correct? Yeah.
They're massive and they're so much fun. And this is something that you obviously are really passionate about, and it's exciting for you that you can go into these group classes and do some large group activities with them and do the music and movement. But this is something that I think a lot of teachers have expressed interest in, and they don't know how to make that happen or bring that to fruition. So is this something that you are using an existing curriculum for? Are you writing your own curriculum? If so, how are you coming up with those ideas?
Yeah, I do write my own curriculum. I don't know. I am a songwriter. That is what I do. I like creating. Yeah. So I kind of will hear a song and I'll make a note in my phone, or I'll think of an activity and I'll write it down. And kind of the more you do that, the more willing you are to just try things. And sometimes I try songs with my younger classes and I realize like, okay, I'm not going to do that one again. That held nobody's attention. No one enjoyed it. So I take it off the roster. But that's the beauty about doing your own thing, is you get to create it so that it works for people and you get to trial and error. And but yeah, I'm just kind of willing to put things out there and see what happens. And most of the time it's been great. And then sometimes I learn from it. So I do love that piece. And I know not everybody would love that piece of creating their own curriculum. But yeah, if anyone is wanting to do that, I say go for it, because, music teachers, you have a lot of understanding inside. So it's just kind of, how can I think outside the box, get these little preschoolers involved and excited? Yeah, it's fun.
Well, and it's been so fun, I think, for your students to have that creativity from you, where it's not always the same. It's not repeating the same thing over and over again. It's this ongoing class that even students can kind of jump in and out of as well, because you're not following a set curriculum. If they miss something, you can always look back and review things for their students too. So it's a really good system.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about some of the other classes that you're running. So as we're building out group classes versus private lessons, when a student reaches out to you and they say that they're interested, we talked about the problem solving. What does that look like? How are you enrolling students? How are they finding you? And what are some of the next steps that we put them through?
Yeah, for private lessons, I automatically do a consultation in home. I found that that's been my best way. Like if I can just get people in front of me talking, then generally they don't have a problem signing up for lessons. So that's kind of the system that I've been using, which has been great. I spend that first 15 minutes kind of talking about their goals and the parents' goals, and figuring out why they're here to begin with. And then I usually put them on the instrument. So, okay, let's go to the piano and just give both them and the parent an idea of how I teach for 10 minutes. And then at the end we talk, and, I let them know this is my policy and this is what my schedule looks like, and this is the cost. And then I've only had a couple of people from a consultation say, no, we're not interested, or no, we can't make that work. So I've been pleasantly surprised. And, it was hard for me to up my prices. That felt really scary, because I was nervous I was going to miss out on a lot of students. Yeah. But I also felt really confident that I could provide a really good experience for those students. And so, I just kind of practiced saying it, and, this is the cost, and, without feeling guilty about something. And in turn, people have been happy to pay for the experience that I provide. A lot of my students have come from other teachers who charge less. And so again, you recognize it's not everything's about money for people. They're paying for the experience for their kids, and I can provide that for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this is such an interesting thing around the pricing, that it really is about the experience. I think a lot of musicians, we talked about this, it's not your experience that it's marketing, right? And coming back into the studio building realm and starting to market yourself again after taking a little bit of a hiatus, it is stressful to start talking about yourself and your services again.
Yes.
And I think our instinct always is just to spout out, like, where did we get our degrees? What is our certification? What information can we provide that, you know, kind of qualifies us, or what credentials do we have? That's not usually what someone's buying.
Yep.
Right. They don't care about your experience nearly as much as they care about the experience of working with you and what that feels like.
Yes.
So we've also worked on building up testimonials and things so that new families can understand what you're providing. And I think that really gives you a leg up, especially when we're looking at higher price point to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the cool thing about your studio is that you've got this balance. We've got the private lessons, but then we've got the group classes, which also, if finances are a little bit of a challenge, because the group classes are more affordable, it also opens the door for us to work with a lot more students and kind of bring some of them to the studio at a lower price point if that's a concern. Have you found that having the group classes has helped students in that way, or do you find that students just come to you and you know exactly where to put them based on their interests or your availability?
Yeah, I have had a couple of students want to do group classes after probably after hearing price points for private lessons. Like, working with an instructor one-on-one it is going to be expensive. Running a business is really expensive. So now I'm actually feeling very grateful for that amount of money, because it's not just like suddenly all of this cash I'm just tossing around my bedroom. It's stuff that I'm recognizing I really need it to run this really well. And so those students who I know are kind of struggling in that realm, I follow up with, like, you know, I do have a group vocal performance class that is a blast. And I have had a couple of people join that instead, even though they were looking for private lessons initially. So that's been fun to be able to offer that as well. Because I am passionate about everybody being able to have an opportunity to be educated musically. So it feels nice and important to have that to offer.
Good.
Yeah.
I know, looking at the studio now, and we talked about having about 100 new students. So like we said before, about 80 of those are in the preschool classes. About 10 of those new students are now private students. And then I think like 10 or 11 we said are in group classes, right?
Yep.
Good. So let's talk the numbers around that. When we first started working together, we had about 10 private students and 7 group classes. We didn't have any of the preschool students at all. It was about 8.5 hours a week of teaching. How much in an average month were we making at that
around
time?
1,600. Okay. Yeah.
Got it. Now we're kind of in this mid-December, so we're looking at December and January. Right now, what is our estimated kind of average monthly revenue for these months?
Yeah, between 48 and 5,000.
Nice. It's a huge increase over
it
three
is.
times over is. 3 times what we were doing this summer.
Yes.
What do you think has created a lot of that success for you? How have we gotten here?
Oh, yeah. Persistence, consistency.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times there is that fear, right, of being annoying to people. So I kind of had to get over that. That people aren't on Facebook being like, hey, this person keeps talking about music lessons. Like, they're just not thinking about me that much. And so just being consistent and persistent about offering has been hugely beneficial. And I'm like, I haven't even taken advantage of all of the education that you've offered yet, which is fun to me, right? Like, I'm now in a place where I still have ability to grow and I still have things that I know I can do. But I'm also like, so I'm busy in the realm right now and I keep getting requests and that I have to turn down. And well, like, what a great place to be in. But yeah, just being consistent, putting aside that time to do the marketing every week. I did spend one weekend just completely reorganizing, which was very helpful. I have like a tendency to feel very overwhelmed And I recognize like, I need to just organize everything. And again, you had a lot of tools and suggestions for how to do that, which felt very, very important and helpful for me. When you're managing that many students, it's important to have your ducks lined up in a row, or you're going to be just spending all of your time collecting payment.
Yeah. Your enrollment's like what? It's like around 115 total. That is a lot to manage. And doing that all manually would be an absolute nightmare. So that automation is an enormous help so that you're not spending like 2 days a month creating invoices. You get to hang out with your kids and that just happens for you.
It's so worth it. It's been so worth it to just take that time and reorganize. Yeah. Those are like the main things I've done. And like I said, I know there's still so much untapped potential, but it's such a nice, like, confidence pillow to rely on of like, I still have so many more things that I could do to be more involved in the community and to be more well-known in my area as somebody who does this. So I just like, don't feel worried, which is really nice because there's always something more I could be doing. Whereas before I had no idea what to do. Now it's like, there's so much, I know what I can do. And it's just taking the time little bit by little bit to do it.
So when you sit down every day, like let's say today you're going to sit down and do your marketing, do you find that each day you know exactly what you're going to spend your time on, or do you have to spend time figuring out what the next step is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, you already have so it's just laid out very well for somebody like me who gets overwhelmed and scattered. There's a lot of information about how to market. Yes. So having a system where I know like, oh, I have not yet contacted schools. So that's something, right? Yeah. Like I know I can check off. So I just kind of check off the things that I have done. And if I don't know what to do that day, then I can go to my list of like, okay, I haven't started this yet. And Kelly has taught me exactly how to do it. So I just go there and start, every moment, just figure out where to start based on what you've already created. So helpful.
Good. I'm thrilled to hear all of this. It's wonderful to hear that all the organization helps. I mean, I love organization. So
you do a very good job.
So we can apply it to your studio and it's working really well for you. Obviously it's exciting for me, but in knowing what to do every day and having this organization, I know one of the biggest concerns that we had in June was we didn't want the studio to completely take over your life. Like we wanted to build things out so that you could spend time with your kids and you could have time during the week that you're not having to teach, even 4 or 5 days a week. We're really just teaching about, I think 3, right?
Yeah.
On an average week.
Yes.
So 3 days a week at, about $5,000 a month in revenue is wonderful. But I think talking about the hours a week is even more impactful. So this 3 days a week, you're only teaching about 14 hours a week. Mm-hmm. So the group classes obviously help us to get there. And that makes a really big difference. But the work that you've done to put yourself out there, to allow people to know who you are, to attract more people to the studio, to fill the group classes, which arguably I think are harder to fill.
Yes.
For 100%. A lot of studios.
Yes.
Because most people go into music lessons and they're just expecting one-on-one.
Yep.
So you've put so much effort into that to make that happen and to build up these great group classes, to not only market it, but then to do the consultation and have the conversations and know how to present this in a way that's really easily understood. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort, and you've put that work in. And, I'd like to be realistic with everybody. This is not an overnight thing. We don't just snap our fingers and have a wonderfully successful studio. Yeah. It's been a lot of work the last 6 months, but building this in a way that is still comfortable for you and for your family schedule is so important.
Absolutely. And, I'm going through something that I never imagined going through, the hardest thing I've ever been through, all at the same time, right? So like the emotional, I'm trying to deal with the emotional toll and the toll it's taking on my own kids while I'm trying to build a business to financially be stable. So it's been so much. And being able to have a system that I can consistently count on and rely on has just been so relieving for me. So I don't have to figure everything out on my own, Yeah, I think I've said this to you multiple times. Like, it just feels like a no-brainer. Like working with somebody who knows, right, I'm here, I want to get here. But I just like don't have the stepping stones. I don't have the understanding of how exactly the best way to do it would be. And honestly, I don't have the time to figure that out. I think I'm smart enough. I could have figured it out by myself, but like, I don't want to waste all that time trying to figure it out. So working with someone who knew and works with a lot of people on those stepping stones was just so helpful. And now I'm kind of in a place where I'm doing, that much teaching, which is great. But, I also do relationship coaching, and I have a strong desire to do more of that as well. And it's nice because I feel like I've built this cushion where I can start doing more of the other thing that I love to do also, because I've built that freedom with those amount of hours. Like, I don't have to run myself into the ground. Anyway, it just leaves a lot of flexibility and space for me to do what I want to do, which is both things. I like both things a lot. And now I feel like I can finally, this is kind of running on autopilot. And now I can put my brain into a different space too, which is so fun.
That's awesome. And so many of the things that we've talked about, the sales and the marketing, are things that you can apply in other places too. I mean, we're talking about music lesson marketing, but it doesn't just apply here. These are basic business principles and tenets that are, applicable in a lot of different ways. Even the organization is applicable in a lot of different ways, but it's really important that we treat this like a business. And I think it's where, as a previous student and as someone that went through, music programs, did my undergrad, I did my master's, I didn't learn these things there. I had to go afterwards and do my own research. And it took time to interview dozens and dozens of other teachers to put together my own studio to make things work for myself. Yeah. It wasn't an overnight thing then either, but having the support system and having the business knowledge really, really does help to move things forward faster. So I'm thrilled that we've found this, and I'm thrilled that we've got this confidence and this momentum forward for you now. And this balance was really important. All in all, we've talked about the finances. We've talked about the schedule. Are there any other areas in your life that things have improved as we've moved forward through this process of build the business that you would want to kind of highlight a little bit or share?
I think when you are making enough and when your like headspace is cleared up enough from the kind of the frantic business, which is where I was like, I frantically need to build a business and I don't know how to do it. When my headspace was cleared up enough from that, I could really put the focus where I wanted, which was how do I continue to build more value for my students? Because that's what we all want to do. The reality is like, none of us really want to be business people. We want to be teachers. We want to be music teachers. And so, like I said, just having that, so much of that part off of my brain so that I can do what I actually want to do, which is create really good value and a music education experience for kids and adults, is just really nice. Because now for me, it's all like, how can I create more value for my students? How can I make this more enjoyable and more worth it? And how can I get them better faster? And the focus is just in the place where I want it to be.
I'm thrilled to hear that. And I'm so proud of you. I mean, the last 6 months, it's hard. I think we all get amnesia when we get to the end, so to speak. Like we get back to the top and we're like, wow, everything is wonderful. Like my life is great. Everything's going great. And I think sometimes people listen to these interviews and they're like, well, this almost feels unrealistic because it's just like in 6 months you accomplished all of that. And it was just that easy. Yeah. And it wasn't that easy. Right. But when you're at that place where you feel so confident, it's so easy to kind of minimize the hard things that we had to do to get there. Yeah. Because it feels so good to be in the moment where you are that you don't really want to think about those things. But I am seriously so proud of you. I mean, you have gone through so much in your personal life, in your business life to get to this point. And to see you here now, 6 months later, really a completely different person with so much confidence and so much space to allow your passion to show through. I mean, this was something that we wanted and that we talked about creating for you, but to see you here now is beyond amazing. And I keep saying that I'm proud of you, but it just is mind blowing how much you've done in the last 6 months and how much you've created for yourself and for your family. So congratulations.
Thank you. And like I said, I've only done like such a small percentage of what you have available. I'm like, I can only imagine if I would have been, I mean, and I understand I was going through a lot the last 6 months, but if I would have done 100% of what you offered and what you give to people, I mean, I'm like, I can't even imagine. I already reached so many goals taking action on a small percentage. And that felt important to me, right? My priority right now has been my kids and my family. But I was still able to do so much with just a percentage of what you offered. And so I'm just so grateful. So grateful.
Well, I'm glad to have been a part of it. And I know there's so much more work that we have ahead of us. We've got a lot of other projects we're working on, which is exciting. Yes. But it's just been a joy to see this happen. I want to jump back one more time to June. And I remember the first time that we talked because I was sitting at NAMM in Anaheim when I got your Instagram DM. I remember it so distinctly. I checked my phone after a session. I was like, oh, I've got an Instagram DM and she has no profile picture. I hope she's a real person. But we had a nice little chat on Instagram. You had done a lot of research, and I know you were looking at a lot of different programs and trying to figure out what you wanted to do and how you wanted to proceed. Why did you choose Outside the Box, and what made this a good fit for you?
I think that, first of all, my experience in so many ways the last year has been when I'm working with women, I'm getting a solid experience. I have interviewed many lawyers for divorce. I have interviewed mediators. I'm just very impressed by what women are doing right now. And I think that is one of the first things that drew me to you. After that, I'm very much a vibes person. If I feel like you're genuine, then I think we'll get along, right? Mm-hmm. And so that just felt important to me. I felt like you were authentic and genuine, and that you would get me there. You weren't trying to sell me something I didn't need. You were there to help, and that felt super important to me. So, and it was all true. That was all my experience with you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm so glad and honestly so honored by the opportunity to work with you. I know this has been a wild time in your life, and it's a lot to take on another project and to also make a time and financial investment in a program that we know we have goals and we want to get there, but not knowing exactly what it is going to look like on the end or having any guarantees of that can be a little stressful. So in the end, what kind of kicked you over the fence? What was the reason that we started this? Where was the urgency for you?
Yeah, I mean, growing up kind of with this understanding that my job is just going to be mom and wife. And then experiencing something where it's like, okay, suddenly that's not just my job anymore. And now, I could probably figure out how to take care of myself financially, but now I'm taking care of 4 kids and myself financially. And I have a strong desire to really not be reliant on my ex financially. Like, I want to get to a point where I don't need the child support and I just know I'm a grown up, I can do this. And it just felt urgent to me to figure out how to do the business part well so that I could succeed in that. And then I wouldn't feel like this fear that tells me I have to go do something I'm not passionate about. So the passion and the desire for freedom, really financial freedom, was really the thing for me. And I know if I invest in that, because it's not right, I know that you have to spend money to make money. But if you can spend money in the right ways, then you can really make money. And, there were multiple people who said, I can help you build a business. But they were not music studio specific. That was really important to me. Like I knew and felt really confident that you know about what it takes to get music students. And having that specific niche really, I think, pushed me over the edge of confidence of like, I mean, I already had the confidence. Like, I know I can do this. I just need some help. So it's worth it to me. It just felt really worth it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like in so many ways, Jules, you have always taken action with this attitude that the only way I can fail is if I just don't even try.
100%.
You've gone into this with this very open mind of like, I will try anything once. I'll maybe even try it 3 times to see if I can get it to work. And any little idea, suggestion, refinement that we had, you jumped all in. I mean, even emailing the preschools, for example.
Yeah.
That you're putting yourself out there in a major way, like offering to, in this case, come into someone else's business to do business and work with them and have this kind of joint partnership. It's a lot to negotiate. It's a big ask. And you went out there confidently and did it, and right away had takers because you were willing to take that extra step. And so it is something that I know we have to sometimes gear ourselves up for, but you've been so quick to take action, which is so exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun.
It has been fun. It's been a good 6 months.
Yes.
It's been a wild 6 months. It's been a good 6 months.
Yes.
2 last questions for you. First of all, do you feel like this has been worth the investment? And then if so, who would you recommend this program for in the future?
Yeah, I mean, 100% worth the investment. And who would I recommend it for? Really, anybody that wants to make money teaching music. I think a lot of times music lessons have been more in the past, like the hobby job of the stay-at-home mom. And I think so many of us that are in this program, like we're really serious about, we want this to be our livelihood. We want this to be the main financial support of our households. And so being able to make that happen has been very, very cool to me. So yeah, anybody who really feels like they really want to make money doing what they love teaching, and who also hates having to do business part, right? like I said, none of us really want to do the marketing or the business part, but we recognize that that's just part of it. So having someone hold our hands through that is very great.
Well, and you've hinted a couple of times at the community, and I think you've also been so integrated into the community and, using resources and relying on other members of the group to practice those sales scripts with. So it does feel authentic and genuine to who you are. And we're not just selling or pushing something on anyone. Using all those resources is a part of this too. And you have built a business for yourself that's true to who you are. That's our goal for everyone. It's not meant to be a cookie cutter process.
Yeah.
And to see you in this space with this much success is just really exciting. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Final kind of parting thoughts. If someone's listening right now, what advice would you give them as they're trying to figure out what to do with their own studio business?
I think mostly I feel sad when I see people over and over again think that they don't get to do what they love. Like it's just a rush to get to 65 and retire so that they can finally live their lives. And I just keep bringing to people like, what if you don't have to feel that way? What if you can at 33 build something that you really enjoy and you're not like dying to get to retirement age? I want everybody to know that they actually can do what they love to do, and that there's just always way. There's always a way to get there, and you have to be willing to try and fail and try and fail and try and fail. And I taught my 9-year-old daughter, I said that exact same thing. The only way I see failing is when you just are staying on the same spot and you're not willing to try things. I've tried before, before I had your path from A to B, I tried jumping from A to B and I'd fall and I'd try it again and I'd fall. I did that a few times until I was like, I need a clear path because it's not working. But even that is still trying. Mm-hmm. So I just want people to know that there's like a way to enjoy what they're doing and be able to support themselves.
Absolutely. To borrow my favorite non-English word from Marie Forleo, the author, and MTV, and she's got a lot of other really cool like YouTube stuff out. She says, everything is figure outable. I think it was a phrase that her mom kind of made up when she was a kid. And she's got a book called Everything is Figure Outable. It's one of my favorites. And it really is true that if there's this goal that you have in mind, if you're willing to try anything once, there absolutely is a way to make that happen. So thank you again for sharing today and for being so open with your journey. I know it has been a wild and exciting few months, and I really do appreciate how much you're willing to share and to talk about this. And I know it will inspire other people, but I hope it really helps to move things forward for people, even if it's not an Outside the Box program, if they're just trying to find that final inspiration. I hope this is it. So thank you. Yeah, if anyone wanted to find out more about all the amazingly cool things that you're working on right now, where could they find you on the internet? JulesMusicMakers.com is my website. I teach in Washington State. And Jules L. Morrow is my Instagram account. Morrow like tomorrow. I share all sorts of things on that. So awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate this. And if anyone has any questions, or if you're looking at maybe doing something similar, especially in these preschool classes, I definitely recommend checking out Jules' website, because she's got just some really great language on there and some really good marketing set up. So check it out. Awesome. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. You bet. Thanks, Kelly.